From the trademark Samsung screen to the next level camera, we've had some time to digest the latest Galaxy phone. So, for those of y'all considering Samsung's latest, here's everything you need to know. Before I get into the nitty-gritty though, here's an overview of the lineup. Samsung has gotten into a bit of a groove with how they release phones. As usual for the series, there are 3 devices that you can pick from. They're mostly pretty similar, but we should get to grips with them anyway. The vanilla Galaxy S23 is Samsung's flagship phone. It might not be the best of the best, but it's what the company has revealed as the face of its current smartphone generation. Stepping up from that is the Galaxy S23 Plus. The Plus model is rocking a 6.6-inch screen, in contrast to the 6.1 inches of the regular S23. Taking advantage of the bigger frame, Samsung has also dropped in a slightly bigger battery. Compared to the 3900 mAh battery of the S23, the Plus is rated at 4700 mAh. And finally, the Plus can charge a bit faster at 45 watts instead of the S23's 25-watt charging. Overall though, the differences are minor. Things scale up in a similar way with the S23 Ultra. The screen is even bigger at 6.8 inches. The battery is even bigger, rated for 5000 mAh. But the key to that phone is its 200 megapixel camera, which definitely deserves a closer look. And I'll do that, but a little later in the video, because when it comes to Samsung, you have to start with the screen. There's a reason why Samsung isn't just making their own screens, but also selling displays to the competition. Both the S23 and the S23 Plus sport 1080p AMO LED panels. Now, 1080p might not sound flagship tier in 2023, but this is actually a sensible choice from Samsung. Surprisingly, for the creator of the Galaxy Note, the S23 and Plus aren't big honking titans. At 6.1 inches, the S23 has a screen you can actually use one-handed, and you'll find that 1080p is perfect at this size, especially since it's an AMO LED display. Naturally, you're gonna get the gorgeous colors and saturation that is Samsung's trademark. One other benefit of sticking to 1080p is that it conserves battery. That battery power is instead being invested in the display's refresh rate. In this day and age, you can't release a phone in this category that doesn't have a 120 Hz refresh rate. This is an LTPO screen, of course, so the phone can change its refresh rate on the fly, depending what's happening on the screen. I should point out though that the S23 and S23 Plus don't drop down to 1 Hz as a lot of LTPO panels do. While the Ultra can do that, the other two bottom out at 48 Hz. All in all though, these are some of the best screens you can get on a phone. From there, we have to take a peek inside what sort of performance you can expect from the S23 lineup. The question of performance is becoming less and less interesting these days. After years of Exynos Galaxies and Snapdragon Galaxies, Samsung has closed the divide. In 2023, Samsung is producing only one type system for its phones, and it's powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. That's what you'll find in every non-Apple flagship right now, though there is one difference. See, the chip in the S23 phones is actually something called the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. In reality though, all it means is that the core clock speed and GPU clock speed are slightly tuned higher. Now, as underwhelmed as it sounds, this is some of the best performance in the smartphone industry right now. So that's not nothing. I'll also mention that the phones are rocking 8 gigs of RAM, leading to even smoother performance and multitasking. But if 8 isn't enough for y'all, you'll have to spring for the Ultra model. That's not the only one with an option to upgrade to 12 gigs. But let's head back outside, because it's finally time to snap off some shots. The S23 and its Plus variant both have triple camera systems on the back.
Here we are with the Super Steady mode to show off some of that OIS enhancement. What's nice is that the Super Steady is now no longer locked at 1080p.
On the front, all 3 phones are boasting the same 12 megapixel camera. Going back to the more interesting camera system, we have a 50 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10 megapixel telephoto with 3x zoom. If you've been following the Galaxy lineup over the past couple of years, you know what to expect. The S23's cameras take punchy and contrasty photos that look beautiful on their punchy and contrasty screen. Be warned though that they can go a little overboard with the computational processing processing that's becoming a norm on smartphones these days. And you could do better if you want a good low-light camera. But when it gets what it wants, the cameras are fantastic. And the dedicated telephoto lens is great for portrait mode shots. Here too though, if you want to take things to the next level, you'll have to go Ultra. The S23 Ultra has one of the best camera systems you can get on a phone right now. 200 megapixels is a lot, and the camera captures detail like nothing else. And of course, zoom. Sure, the 100 times space zoom is just a gimmick, but when you're going for more reasonable levels of zooming, or even up to an unreasonable 30 times zoom, the phone can amaze. So this is clearly a fantastic phone. The real question is how it compares to the competition.
Public service announcement for S23 users, there's a little hole right beside the SIM card tray. And just be careful when you're putting your tool in. Third lens, 10 megapixel telephoto lens, allows you to optically zoom up to 3 times. If you buy the Galaxy device, you're getting 120 Hz refresh rate, an AMOLED display with a Full HD panel.
In the Android world, Samsung's reign of dominance is only really threatened by the Google Pixel 7. On the surface, you might prefer Sammy's more traditional and refined style, or you might like the Pixel 7's big Geordie LaForge visor going across the back. But where personal preference doesn't count is the screen, where Samsung clearly trashes Google. Better looks and a higher refresh rate hands Samsung an easy win. The Korean brand is also doing better in performance thanks to the Snapdragon. Google's Tensor chips are new and untested, and they can't hang with the competition yet. One department where Google used to reign supreme was the cameras. Their head start in computational photography used to give them the edge over everyone else. It's not that the Pixel 7 is bad, but Samsung's superior hardware allows them to do more and better in photography. The only area where the Pixel can beat the Samsung is in price. It's cheaper while being close enough in every way to justify the savings. But Samsung has bigger fish to fry. Or should I say bigger apples.
Through an entire day with this device and it's never an issue. For me personally, I'm a medium to heavy user. I'm finishing the day with about 20 to 30% left of battery life. It's not going to fit the iPhone 14. It will line up with the volume rocker and mute switch, and same with the power button, but because
the iPhone 14 lineup is some of the best Apple has ever released, but it still has its shortcomings. Apple continues to reserve its ProMotion high refresh rate for its higher-end models, which lets Samsung take a win in the screen battle. Performance is a different story though. Android phone makers have been trying to beat Apple in this area for years. Alas, they've yet to overcome the advantage Apple gets from designing all its own hardware. As for photography, Apple and Samsung take comparable photos pound for pound, but with a 50 megapixel sensor and a telephoto lens, Samsung gives you more versatility than what the base iPhone 14 can offer. Finally, in price, the two are evenly matched. Samsung isn't undercutting Apple anymore, and both phones retail for $799. I hope that tells you everything you need to know in order to decide whether the S23 series should be your next smartphone stop. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.